I'm not sure how this video, or perhaps sequence of videos, is going to work out, but this is a loft find, not find, of something I had. I am now 70, and this is something I had in the 80s. It's given away by that, because what it is it's my old ZX81. There it is, Sinclair ZX81. Now, you'll notice that actually there's some modifications to it. So I'll just lift it out of the box. I've literally just cut the box open to get to it. This box is manuals and software, and this box here is the hardware. Okay, so the Sinclair computers. I was quite into these Sinclair computers at one time. And so what I will do is lift some bits out of the box and let you see what they are. So the first thing we have here is the MapSoft keyboard. And so what I've done, or did way back, is connect this keyboard. It's got a reset button on the side onto the ZX81, so that instead of the multi-function flexible membrane keys here, amazing multifunctions on them, you get keys which you actually press. Unfortunately, you can't touch type with the ZX81 anyway. It just gives you a slightly different feel to the keyboard because you've got there's a single processor doing all the work, and there's a slot at the back of the plastic there so that you can tuck the computer inside and underneath the keyboard, so there's just the rear part of it projecting out of the keyboard, and so you wouldn't see the ZX81 itself. Plugged into the side there is the little coax lead, and that plugs into a TV to give you the video. It plugs into the aerial socket. I can't remember if on this one I put a little circuit in it to convert the modulated signal into a signal that would go into a monitor, but that's the TV output, ear mic, and the 9-volt DC input on the side there. Now, before I go any further, I don't really want to just put boxes up and put them back into the loft. I would like them to either go to a museum or I could sell them, but I don't think they're worth a lot, particularly as I've hacked them, so they're not in original condition. And when I put them into the boxes, they were working. They were functional items, but I've not plugged them in. In a museum, they would just be static items, I'm pretty sure. So if any museums see this video, then do get in touch. I mean, free to a museum. That's if you were interested in it. Now, in Bradford, where I live, there is the Media Museum, but I believe they've got ZX81s in there. They've probably got them to spare. Now, let's go and see what else there is in the box. Okay, back to the box. And the next thing down is this, a nice weighty, meaty thing. I love this. It's the ZX Spectrum Plus. Look at how much more of a meaty machine that is than the Spectrum. Yep. It's even got an RS232 port on the side and an RGB output, so you can plug it into a monitor directly from the device itself. So Spectrum, the Spectrum Plus, because the initial Spectrum was like that. Okay, let's put the Spectrum Plus down first. Yes, because there underneath the Spectrum Plus is the original rubber key Spectrum. Now, did I add that myself as a monitor output? I think I did. I don't think that was as fitted as new. You see, it's a while ago. This is 48K. I don't know if it's expanded internally. That's 128K. Oh, I can't remember. Is that 4K expanded to something else? So we're going up in size. 4K, 48K, 128K. Yeah, I think that's my own little socket I've put on there, tapped off before the modulator, because it's got TV. There's a little capsule in there which is modulator, and if you just take the signal out before the modulator, you've got a signal that you can take out and put into a monitor, which I did. Zoom back to the box. So what else we got in there? Well, we've got something called Spectrum with a little expansion piece, a joystick modified so it fits onto the Spectrum. These is ZX printer thermal paper, a whole box of it. So there was a thermal printer with it, and there's the thermal paper. Whether that still works or not, I've no idea. Oh yes, there's a software for Spectrum. Right, there's a micro drive and expansion. So let's carry that over there. So what you've got here is a little expansion device, ZX Interface 1, that will fit certainly onto the Spectrum, and connected into the side of that is the micro drive, which has those continuous tape drives which provided you with some storage. So interface 1, and what else do you get? Continuation of the interface and a different serial port, RS232. What's the difference? That alright, so RS232 is built into the Spectrum Plus, but on this one it adds RS232, which is useful as a serial port. So there's the interface 1 and micro drive. Let's delve a bit deeper into the box. There's a expansion connector coming out. Oh, as I said, that was a thing called the Spectrum. What's that? Sinclair, copyright 1983, Sinclair Research. And that is probably, because there's nothing else on it, some sort of memory expansion that would fit into one of the expansion devices. There might even be a ROM in there. Can't remember what's inside that. Is it a ROM or is it RAM? Throw it over to there. See, I can't even remember. Power supplies. Right, power supplies. Let's lift the power supplies out. And let's lift some of these wires out. Now we get down to some juicy stuff. Infrared. So this software I've got in various forms. It's a disassembler. Lovely, lovely, lovely thing. I remember using that. That allows you to take some code that's been produced by somebody else and put onto a micro drive or tape and look at the assembly language code. I think Infrared even annotated it a bit. And that allows you to then edit and modify the code. Let's put it over there. And here is the juicy bit. So in this box, this polystyrene box, I think is the printer. Have a look. Sorry, but what's it say? Don't know what it says on there. Let's have a look in the box. Yep, and there we have it, the thermal printer. Wow. Well, as I say, that was working when it was put into here. And you had a higher current rating power supply because you needed higher current when you were driving the printer. And that's down there on the floor in that bundle of various power supplies and things down on the floor and an interface. Look, these little bits of interface cable. So there's the printer, the thermal printer. All complete in there. It's this thing. Oh yes, multi-face one. So this is a guy I used to know, 77 download London. Forgotten his name just now. Multi-face one. Romantic Robot UK. So what he did, you could build one yourself, but you might as well buy it from him, because he put it into a box and made it all look nice and tidy. And what you've got there is your RS232 reset button, I believe, on top, video out on there, I think, rather than TV, and so that plugged onto it. So various interfaces, and the interface continues on the back. So multi-face one, and then this thing, fabulous bit of engineering, complete with power supply, is a Opus Discovery 1, and this provides you with floppy disk drive, and there's even a disk in the drive. So what you've got there is a floppy disk drive for your Spectrum, but not just that, there's all sorts of things. Discovery 1, peripheral through connector, so that's from the edge connector, parallel printer port, and you put an LPT thing, joystick connector, so that RS232 thing I was telling you about is actually joystick connector, monitor output there, and it includes the power supply built in, on off, all in one nice little tidy box. So when you plug that into your computer, oh, it's not ejected that thing, maybe the power needs to be on for it to eject it. A floppy disk drive, the Opus 1, Discovery 1. So I'm going to put that back in the box. There's a bit of surface rust on that. I wonder if that would fire up. Who knows? Enjoying this voyage of discovery as much as I am? Well, who knows? Zx81 Learning Lab. Look at that lovely colour. I mean, lovely photograph on the front. So, 8 cassette tapes and a whole manual beautiful. This is what taught me to program. Admittedly, it was a strange sort of basic. There you are, a bit of the code, but you know, you've got things working with relatively short samples of code. Yep. Look at that. So, by Trevor Toms, and it was copyrighted by Sinclair Research Limited, so King's Parade, so that was something that they particularly sponsored themselves. Okay, Clive Sinclair was an entrepreneur, but what he did was he made use of bright people in and around Cambridge who were able to design the stuff he needed. And I got to know the Grants, John and Kate Grant, who did some of the work for him, and that guy in there got some credit for that. And then next is the QL user guide. I've not mentioned the QL yet, okay, but there we go. Look at the QL user guide. £39.80. Wow, QL World. And quite a manual here. I do have some books. They're on the shelf, on the bookshelf, which, yep, there we go. QL Quill. I remember that from somewhere. Let's have a look again, what we've got. And then in here we've got some bits of software. Bodyworks, Weather Station, Spectrum 48K, Spectrum 48K, what's that? Electronic Series D Logic, Spectrum 48K, transfer Spectrum programs from tape to disc and disc to disc. So Transfer Express, Spectrum programs, 3.5-inch micro disc software, for what? For 48K Spectrum and Discovery. And then what we've got in here are micro drives. Is that cassette? Yep. Cassettes, Spectrum. TAS Word 2, that's a word processor down there. Oh, and a couple of manuals. And these here are micro drives. I think they hold 4 in each box. Is that right? Yeah, 4 micro drives in each box. And that's your little micro drive. We can look at that later. Anybody want to see what a micro drive looks like? If you've not seen them, I can open these up and show you. But you probably have, if you're looking at this, it's just a single length reel of tape. Plug that in, and it's a continuous tape, like an old 8-track tape. Right, so there we have it. The programming guide, you'd expect that. The Simpson and Terrell book for the Spectrum. Assembler workbench if you're doing Sinclair QLs, that's the QL. Some of this stuff is for the QL. But look at this, I've just noticed something. Debenhams, right? Debenhams, $150 for that. So what happened was they started selling them off at one point. This is Lasky's. Now there's a name to conjure with. Do you remember Lasky's? Yeah, and look at that, $1.99. So I don't know what they were when new, but what I did was I bought a couple of these things because it's only cassette tapes when they've been reduced to clear to things like $1.99, because to buy something like this or that, you know, you're paying quite a few pounds. Exclusive to Boots, like this software. Well, there is Boots selling 48K Spectrum software. Yeah, and that's for the Opus Discovery. So all sorts of different software there that you've got, including a Scrabble and what's that? Make a chip. Useful logic software. I was interested in electronics as well. Now there we go. I'm going to have to let those dry out, but that's it then. I'll look through that. And I've no idea where my QL is. Don't know. Can't remember if I gave it away because the QL was a next stage up, but that's with built-in micro drives. I think it had a built-in dual micro drive. Can't, you know, there we go. Well, that's my memory. But I did have a QL, so I was a Spectrum fanatic. ZX80s, a couple of ZX8, no, I didn't have a couple of ZX80s, got one at one point. A couple of ZX81s, different ZX81s, and then as you've seen, the rubber key Spectrum, and then the Spectrum Plus, and then I got the QL when the QL came out. But that I've not got here, so who knows where that is. I hope that's been an interesting little look at my, let's call it loft find, and I'm going to just give it an air, get it dried out, and then the next stage is to not dispose of this, but to pass this on safely somewhere if I can find somewhere to pass it on to.